Orrin Hatch made it very, very clear there will be 0 Republican votes for any kind of public option, under no circumstances. The Republicans always get to draw their line in the sand. But we all knew what the Republican position was, and we knew that they were going to be intractable. In some ways, that's a good thing, because I don't want to do their version of the bill. I want to do real health care reform. But then we get to the real problem, which is the Democrats pretending to be Democrats, but who all along never wanted real reform in the first place. And of course, the perfect example of that is the so-called independent from Connecticut who caucuses with the Democrats. In fact, he is the head of one of the committees because he caucuses with the Democrats. His name is Joe Lieberman. And he's going to tell you that he is so concerned here, but let's just not do it. I love that. Okay, we'll decipher for you. It doesn't take much deciphering, but let's watch first.
I don't think, I give the president tremendous credit for taking on the health care problem, and it really is a problem that we've got to deal with. But he took it on at a very difficult time that was not of his making. In other words, we're in a recession. People are very worried about their jobs, about the economic future. They've watched us add to the debt of this country. We're projected to run a $1.8 trillion deficit this year, September 30th, more than $1 trillion next year. You mentioned the 10-year numbers. People are nervous. I think the protests coming out at the public meetings around the country this month are as much to do with that larger environment as they are with questions about health care reform. So I think, great changes in our country often have come in steps. The civil rights movement changes occurred in steps. And I'm afraid we've got to think about putting a lot of that off until the economy's out of recession. There's no reason we have to do it all now. I think it's a real mistake to try to jam through the total health insurance reform, health care reform plan that the public is either opposed to or are very, very passionate mixed minds about. It's just not good for the system. Frankly, it won't be good for the Obama presidency. I think because he's got other fights to fight. He's got climate change next domestically. He's got financial regulatory reform. He's got the war in Afghanistan. People on the Finance Committee, which I think remains our great hope now, these 6 people, 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans working together, that's the hope to get things done. They've said to me that they agree on about 3/4 of what needs to be done. Let's do the 3/4 and save the other quarter for a day when the economy is growing and maybe we've done something to turn down the deficit.
You see it? You see it? In other words, come on, let's not do it now. Now? You want to do it now? No, let's just wait another 16 years. Remember when they said, oh yeah, let's not do it in 93. Let's just wait a little longer. Maybe it'll work itself out. It is so transparent. But you know what? It's partly good news. I watched that clip a couple of times. I thought, it almost seems like they're panicking a little bit. I mean, this is the last thing is, are we going to do this thing? No, wait. Oh, I got a great idea. We'll do great healthcare reform later, okay? And when he says the 3/4 of the things we agree on, which is let's cover more people and mandate that they get private insurance so that the private insurance guys that are giving us campaign contributions get even richer. But the part about bringing down the cost with the public option, yeah, we pay a lot of lip service to it, but let's not do that part. My private insurance overlords are not interested in that part. Oh, Joe Lieberman, See, this is what I'm talking about. When they tell you about bipartisan, agreements, it's not, the press makes it seem like, it's the center of the country. If conservatives and liberal senators, Democratic and Republican senators agree, then it must be right. It must be a moderate and reasonable position. No. It's when the Republican and Democratic senators who've been bought by the lobbyists agree. That's not when you know you have the solution. That's when you know you have the problem. You want to get a sense of how much they agree? Now look at the Republican. He's going to say the same exact thing as Joe Lieberman. Here's Richard Lugar, Republican from Indiana.
What would you do right now as an elder Republican statesman?
I would advise the president that the bringing up of the health care situation in the midst of the recession, the unemployment problems that Senator Lieberman described, was a mistake. And therefore, he ought to postpone the decision.
Yeah.
Because even as you try to get to Senator Cardin's ideas, of how you get reduced cost and what have you. You get back into all the philosophical dispositions of various members. They don't lead to compromise at all. When I was 6 days in southern Indiana, I found people were not talking about health care, although town meetings were occurring. They were very dramatic. It's jobs, the fear of unemployment, the fear of all sorts of bad things happening to your family. It's the economic malaise. Now, this the president has to concentrate on, and he'll get support in doing that, even as he'll have support with the foreign policy situations. But not given now the way the health care thing came out. And you can always go back and forth. Should he have had a plan as opposed to just throwing it up for grabs to the Congress, or should he have done this or that? Too late for that. For the moment, let's clear the deck and try it again next year or in subsequent times.
Yeah, next year. That's a good one, Dick. That's a good one. They're not going to do it next year. They're not going to ever do it. You see the obvious battle plan here? Delay, 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 make sure it doesn't get done, because we don't want it to get done. Every single one of these Republicans, including Dick Lugar, who I like in foreign policy, is bought and paid for by these corporate lobbyists. Okay, and so is Joe Lieberman, and so are the guys on the Finance Committee. So if the media tries to shovel you a load of crap about bipartisan compromise, that's when you know you've got a really bad situation. Now, look, do I want, in an ideal world where all the senators and congressmen aren't bought by the lobbyists, would I want them to have a moderate or reasonable middle ground? Of course I want that. I think my positions are exactly in the center of the country, and some criticize me for being too conservative in foreign policy, etc. You can disagree on that, okay? But the bottom line is, these guys aren't putting a conservative position forward. They're not putting a liberal position forward. They're putting the corporate interest forward. And then Lieberman says, and the public is really against us. Really, based on what poll? Because the public seems to be completely in favor of the public option in every single poll. But, of course, Lieberman pretending that the public is against it because his real boss is against it, the lobbyists that pay him.